Greetings, Clausewitz here. So, why is half sorting without armor stupid? I have to admit it's kinda provocate title for this video, but actually it hit the subject pretty well. And yeah, this is something which goes in my mind for a while now, and it's not that I have actually a problem with half sorting, it's just that there are some points I don't agree with, which is how it's overall represented, or when there's discussions about it, like how you do it or when you do it. And this is why I want to talk about it in here. So first of all, as a starter, what is actually half sorting basically? So basically half sorting is pretty simple, just when you grip mostly long swords, but you can actually do it with every sword. I just do it here with the arming sword because I don't have a longsword here, so I have a Japanese longsword here, but no, not a European one. So it's when you grab basically the sword mostly like in the middle of the blade itself. You cannot actually do it even further, and it was done even further or even lower. And what you then do with this is you have like a staff, and now I can like thrust effectively, precisely against somebody, like in the gaps of plate armor, and I can like parry it, like use leverage to throw somebody over, or to disarm somebody, or like to go in this murder strike stance so that I can use my sword like a hammer, or like to go over it to hit him with the end. So basically this is half sword, and there are plenty of complex techniques combining all the stuff you can do with like a sword as a staff, and to overcome your enemy. And it's kind of interesting system. And by the way, there's a different name for this fighting. I don't know if there's in quotes a real good official term for this. I know in German there's this term Harnischfechten, which is just means like armor fencing, or fencing in armor. And basically this is half sorting, but always with armor involved. And actually I think this is the only effective way to use half sorting. Okay, this was now a little bit too harsh. It's not the only effective way. You can use half sorting techniques without armor in the right circumstances, but overall I think half sorting has its place only with armor, when the half sorting fighter wears armor. And why, I will explain here. So Skallagrim once made a video about this topic too, but in the approach of that half sorting itself is not stupid, and then it works. Because it seems that many people are confused when they first see it, or don't believe that it can actually work. It's too dangerous, you cut yourself and everything. And he proved that you can actually use a sharp blade for half sorting without gloves, without protection on your hands, just with your bare hands. And I also already showed you that you can like grab the blade without harm, and without harming yourself. And this is fine. And yeah, I can, first of all, I can like use the thrusting things here without protection for my hands, and I actually can do this murder strike thing also to an extent, not with the most of the speed, but without cutting myself and without feeling actually the edge. And all this Skallagrim proved as well. But my problem now is that we see often in manuscripts that they use like half sorting and duels when somebody faced a armored opponent. Skallagrim stated this one too, that when you face an opponent in armor and you have a sword, you can't use the sword like traditionally against it. You can't cut it, you can't stab it or thrust it normally, and you have to like exploit the gaps, the weakness points of the armor, and like with gaining more control of the blade and then thrusting between the gaps to hurt him, to kill him, stuff like that. Or to murder strike him against the helmet, for example. First of all, my biggest problem is, yes, you actually can use the sword in a traditional manner against an armored opponent. You can hit him pretty hard against his head, always. Because when I hit somebody on his head, even if he wear a helmet, his brain will move, and it will like crush against or hit the inside of the skull. And this is a thing where he can actually we will black out for maybe just 1 or 2 seconds, not long, but this is a big advantage. Actually, you can injure somebody dangerously with this frequent hits against the head, even if you don't injure the skull and even the skin, but you will translate force on the brain, so the brain will move. And when the whole not skull, the whole head is moving, the brain moves also. When the head is stopping through its own muscles or through its neck, through the bones in his neck, the brain will be still moving, and then it can hit the inside of the skull again and bounce back too. This is one reason you can have a headache, for example, when you get a strike or a hit against your head, because your brain is really literally bashing against the insides of your skull. So basically this is every time an option, even if he has a really good helmet. Especially the whole thing that you will move the head. And the helmet can't do anything against this. And so this is actually an option. And also you can bash in armor plates for an extent. And McLeod's even proved that he can like bend a helmet in, and this is just the measurement of the force. It's not like an observable measurement, because you can see how much force there is that he can bend a cone-shaped helmet in it. And therefore that the sword has a sharp edge, actually it can bite itself in and like transfer much of the energy into the small point, so high pressure. So basically this can be a valid solution. I would prefer this actually. I would prefer, when I don't have armor and just have a sword and I face an armored opponent and like I have to fight him, I can't surrender or can't flee, I just will bash against his head. I will use my better mobility. I will have better mobility, not that I'm like can dance around him like whatever and like a butterfly and sting him like a hornet, huh? No, but the point is, he isn't as mobile as I am, and I have a better vision as him, and these are my little advantages I have to use, and I will try to strike him hard on his head frequently till he goes down, like for instance. I think this is the best chance you can get, and I will explain later why. So first of all, this about the head, about the whole thing with half-sword, what you have to do and when you have to do it. And my point is, when I grab a blade without armor, like this, yeah, I can grab it and I can stab, but actually you can't be sure that you won't encounter a big counter force. Like, you don't have the insurance you will strike between the weak points, and this depends on your blade even. I mean, when you see this blade, it doesn't have a fine point. It has more like a broad point, and yeah, you can stab with it good, but the thing is, when I stab close, it will not penetrate as far as a finer point. So basically, when I kind of half swording like this and go in a weak point, and there is like just the gambeson, maybe I don't get even through, but I kind of get all my force into it, and the point is the force has to go somewhere, and if there is the counter force too big, basically my hands can move along the blade, and yeah, I can hold it like around the edges actually, but I don't have this insurance. I don't have the insurance because this is also a very even surface. It's not very rough, so I don't have much friction, so it's pretty easy actually for my hand to slide on it, and therefore that there is an edge and there is high pressure, and I can just cut my hand open. And basically you cut your hands, even one hand is like your sealed doom in a fight, in a duel, because you need your hands to fight. And even if you would win then this duel, the point is I can cut the strings in my hand. So basically I can't use the hand my entire life anymore. But I have to work. I have to do something. If I'm not like a nobleman or a very rich nobleman, I really fucked up my life. This is not a valid option actually. Sure, if you really, it depends your life on it, then you will do it. You have a chance that you don't cut your hand. I don't say it's always a bad idea. I'd say it's mostly a bad idea. And especially because I mentioned you have this option to kind of get out of his reach and try to just hit his head. Another point why it is stupid without armor is when I like have this murder strike, and Scully proved how he actually could hit it pretty hard. This tire he striked on it. But the point is, when I kind of hit somebody with it and I can get stuck, get hooked on him with this, or even maybe he kind of tried to parry it and strike it away, or hooked with his arm on it and try to get it out of the way, then he pulls on the blade, or I kind of strike like this, but then here's something like his shoulder or something gets catched, and I continue with this direction of force, and now I have also the problem that my hands can slice down the blade and everything, so that I will cut myself again. And this is the thing, it's a very high risk you have to take for this, and with thin gloves also. Sure, if you just have thick leather gloves, it's not such a big problem anymore. It can happen again, and so basically this this plate or this armored gloves is a good solution, because you can depends on the type of glove, but many times they had like thick or hard leather, so basically it's a good idea for this, and therefore that you have a bigger hand now and you have like metal around fingers and everything. Actually, this could be used to really lock into the edge, because the edge bites a little bit into the metal around the finger. Depends on the type, because sometimes you just have like metal scales right on the top of your fingers, not a little bit around of it. So the thing is, you can actually solve this issue mostly with gloves. But the biggest issue where I say you need armor essentially if you want to half swording against somebody in armor, because half swording is a very close quarter combat system, because this is all it's for close quarter, it's for battlefields actually, and if for guys wearing armor, because imagine I'm fighting now a guy in full plate armor, so he's pretty well protected. He has his long sword, I have my long sword, and I now want to fight him, to kill him, and I decide go half swording. So basically now let's assume I have this thing. I want to kind of stab him somewhere. I know it's very basic, I don't just stand there and try to stab, it's kind of stupid, but just assume this. And actually the point is about half sword that you use it as a lever now, as a metal bar, as a little staff. So even if I use it this way, or if I go up here and like to try to push something away, to parry something or to strike something, the thing is, my range is now very low. So I am here, I can like stab him here, but he can strike me just from away. Like with this, just with a normal strike. He can actually go in, he can actually push my blade away with his armor, with his armored arm. I can't then cut it and can't do anything. And the thing is, why should I get in close range to an opponent who is not attackable on this, also who is not attackable overall, but he can attack me everywhere. He can just strike above me and on my head, and unprotected I'm kind of dead immediately, and he can't even can strike my arm on this side. When I'm kind of to try to stab him, he just goes away and strike me. And this is what I meant before. Go out of range, try to be a little bit quicker as him, to when he's charging at you, for example, try to get to the side, hit him with your long range on his head, so then when he strikes back you have enough distance and enough flexibility to parry, to block, or to just avoid the counter attack. And this is actually what I say will kill you. If you want to use half swording against an armored opponent without armor, you are in his range too. And you shorten your own range. So basically, why won't you do this? It's the reason that to fight against somebody in plate armor is unfair when you not have your own plate armor. It's not about fairness every time in fighting on this duels where you kind of want to prove who's guilty and stuff like that. And there was even rules that like if you're just a citizen or a peasant, you can't have specific weapons, specific armor types. And actually there was some rules in some German cities I know that actually when the higher class opponent can actually deny the duel. So this is also an unfair system overall. When we see this like in manuscripts guys wearing now armor and fighting against armored opponent with half swording. I say it's for illustration aspects, to kind of teach somebody or to illustrate how to use this, or just like ads, like some fencing masters and maybe some pretty good fencing masters who can actually say, oh, I could do this. They actually maybe believed it is a good idea, but it's just by logic a so bad idea. And by the way, another danger when you're using it without gloves, why I say it's very foolish, basically just use it with your bare hands. So yeah, Skalgrim proved you can use it and without cutting, but I mentioned already this whole counterforce, or I get stuck or whatever and my hand was sliding. I can't be sure that it won't happen. It will at some point happen, and to slide or cut your hands is just, yeah, it's just your death sentence in a fight, basically. Don't say it can't happen that somebody with cut hands can actually win the fight eventually, but it's not what it's about. It's about chances and about possibilities and what is more likely and not. And another thing is, you're basically not fighting all the time in half sword. It's not like you come to a duel and then, oh, okay, we'll go half swording and he wears armor. And first of all, he just knows what you will do. He's using half sword. Yeah, alright, big range and everything is fine. But the thing is, actually, half swording, use it properly, is you want to and be able to, for example, without that he can strike out your hands and everything, to parry some attacks, to deflect some attacks and everything, or to just block them. And you want to be able to get him, get him on distance, so that he isn't so close that he just grabs or punches you in the face, whatever. And because he can take a hit or 2 or 3 or 4, but you can't. And therefore, what is important? You need to change your grips. This is important with half swording too. They don't get all the way within half swording stance. They just used it normal, the long sword, and when they want to use it, then they would go in half swording stances on the fly and combine different grips in different situations. Okay, I'm just doing silly stuff now, but just gives you the idea. They just switched grips, how it was done with many weapons actually. In the fight. And the thing is, when you don't wear gloves, you can't just like deflect something and then go swiftly into the stance, because you are so quick now, so there is force and there is kinetic energy, because it is moving, it is accelerating, it has mass. There is kinetic energy which has to go somewhere. And if you're just moving it, then you cut yourself. I actually once tried it. This sounds stupid, but I just want to try a little bit, like, oh, could I just like go quickly in the start and actually cut myself? I don't want to demonstrate this now. You just have to take my word for it. But you get the idea. There is kinetic energy in the field. When I move it very slowly, basically here in this stance, maybe did I cut myself just now? I don't think so. The thing is, it's basically still standing, so there's just a mass without acceleration. And so I get in here and I can actually do step by step. Really go here and everything is fine. But really, like, I just strike at something and want to go in this. How do I get it safely? There isn't actually a safe way. You can do it if you would like train it insanely. But who has the time to like train his whole life to just grab it without gloves? And this is the reason why I said you need at least hand protection for good half swording. And then there's another argument I made before. You need armor to really can use the half swording, because you go close in. If the guy doesn't have armor, then it's fine. But then why do you need half swording? Then he would even have an advantage. If I just like, oh, go in like this, then he just can step away and hit you. There's another thing. You need armor because you're close in. And sure, like I said, I don't want to say, and I wouldn't even say it anyway. The thing is, sure, there were I'm convinced there were occasions where somebody did something stupid or not so advisable or so not so desirable or whatever, and it was successful. Sure, people do so often just by chance, because it's not impossible. It's not impossible to grab it, to switch the grab safely. It's not impossible to fight without armor in half swording against an armored opponent and win and everything. It's not impossible to hit somebody and don't cut your hands when you use the murder strike. So, but the chances are not high. The chances are actually pretty low, like I explained now. And this is why I saying if you have a sword and nothing else, and you face an armored opponent, use another weapon, flee. I would say just flee, or surrender. I don't know what he wants, but when you say surrender or die, then maybe when you can't flee, basically, then just surrender. And the thing is, or try to get on distance and hit him on the head hard. This is what I explained. How I explained it's the best chances you have. And not starting half swording. No, don't start half swording. You're too close then. You can stab you, just strike you down. You need to go really close in for half swording. And he don't need to go close in to kill you. So, alright, this is what I want to say about half swording and why it's stupid without armor. So, see you soon.